Shalom, mashracha, family. Um, just giving an update. Been a little bit. I want to share where I'm at in my life. I mostly keep up with people one-on-one with a bit more of my personal relationships, especially as of late. And so have been moving a bit away from, the online relationship through this medium. I started this vlog series to share my witness, just to be a voice professing Yahuwah and Yahusha for those that were like me, feeling alone and feeling like I'm the only person in the world doing this. Just to share, like, hey, there's someone else, that's also doing this, feeling similarly, and just wanted to share things that, I've found, come across, am encouraged by, what have you, art expressions, things like that. And Yahuwah has, just by his kindness and favor, given me more and more people to meet where we've been able to engage in building relationship, friendship, familyhood with one another. So that's been really awesome. And I've been putting a lot of my energy into those relationships. At the same time, because, I started off this vlog series, I feel like in more of a lonely space, and there's been more and more people he's brought along since then. I don't want to neglect, those that may still feel alone, are alone, and finding, some kind of like a benefit from this medium. So forgive me for not having many messages like this as of late, but it's hard to just really it's just not as deep a connection as when you're dealing with people in person, but there are some meaningful conversations and relationships that can be had online, so anyway, this one's just kind of going to be a bit more just raw and just sharing where I'm at. In terms of that overall, I'm still just trying to guard the commands of Yahuwah and have the witness of Yahusha. It comes down to that. Revelations 14, 12, 12 and 17, I think, basically says the same kind of thing. But I personally, for me, just the way that my mind works, I like to have something complex. If it can be put simply, that's great. Sometimes something complex just needs to be complex, and that's that. But sometimes it's just helpful to just have something like, okay, what's my goal? And if it's like I've got a refined idea of it, then great. And then, for where I need to support some more complex matters, for where I need more explanation, it's helpful. But I love that the walk can be summarized by those two things. And so in my walk of endurance, that's, of course, overall focus. And then in terms of the complex bricks underneath that, supporting that, we have the Torah. We have the Torah as explained and walked out by Yahusha Mashiach. And I love how he has simply put, when it comes to the Torah, the heaviest matters, the most important, the weightiest matters, loving Yahuwah with all of your heart, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself. These things being the weightiest, some of the greatest commands. And then, with all of that, there's to be right ruling. So, fair judgment, compassion, belief, along with that love, not only for Yahuwah, but for your neighbor. And Yahusha's so awesome. Yahuwah's awesome. Just like, I love that we have absolute truth shared to us via them. In this world full of lies, and in this world full of unending opinions, I love that there are absolute truths that we just cannot get away from. Can't be debated out of, what have you. But still, people will try, and people will be people. Endurance. It's keeping on. just going, just not stopping, not giving up. Sometimes on this walk, we would take a pause, we take a breather, we maybe stumble even. We fall flat on our face, and praise Yahuwah, with his strength we can continue. Now, it's a simple thing, it's a repeated concept, but it's something that needs to be said. I just find that is something that needs to happen. Just do not give up. It's something that I hold to. It keeps me going. Because I'm going to sleep and waking up just like all y'all, and there are gonna be some mornings where I'll wake up and I'm like, man, like, here we go again, but it's that I choose to keep on going. That's the important thing, because I have the freedom to choose to just give up. This does lead me to something that just is a part of my story, in that as an adolescent, I suffered from depression, which led to many ideations of ending myself. And I praise Yahuwah for him delivering me from that, and because I had no idea. What I would see in this life. I had no idea the different things I would experience, the amazing wonders of revelation Yahuwah has given me. And I'm not talking about like, oh man, I saw this Shamim opened up and he let me know that this was in my future. I'm just talking about, these revelations of like, hey, you, creation of mine, I made you in my image. You are of value. I may have created the heavens and the earth. I may have created the mighty mountains and the sea that has been unexplored, but I care about you and I made you for a purpose. For me, these are the revelations that I hold near and dear. I had no idea. And it's only after having held on all this time that in retrospect, looking back, I see, oh wow, I see the value of holding on, and I see what could have been if I just, or what could not have been if I chose to give up. So don't give up, Yasharal, because I know there's a lot of reasons to, but just don't. Firstly, our Creator has asked that we not, so don't. Secondly, if we need to have an understanding that makes sense for this flesh, that's more practical, more on the surface fleshly level, sometimes that's where we need to be before we can see the deeper spiritual matter and see closer to Yahuwah's vision. But sometimes we need to see it with these raggedy fleshly eyes that are failing each day. I say that just because I'm seeing myself and I'm like, man, I look like I just woke up. But no, I've been awake for hours. Actually had a kind of rough night's sleep. I don't even know why, but anyway, besides the point. But continuing on, there's some simplicity to it, in that keep going. Like, you just don't stop. Even though you feel whack, even though you might feel horrible, you might feel terrible, your flesh just feels achy, you have pains, some you may know why, some inexplicable, causing worry. I'm living here in 2025 too, so at this time, I got this breath right now, and I'm a human. I'm in this world, and all this to say, just keep going. If you're discouraged because of your own mistakes, because of your past, hey, I've been there, but keep going. Just keep going. And want to do better. That is something, don't let go of trying to do better. There's something in your efforts. They are meaningful. There's a reason why Yahuwah has given Yasharal chances, given Yasharal kindness and leniency when we don't deserve it, but he still chooses to. I just rest in his wisdom and go with it, because I know he's greater than I. His thoughts are higher than mine, imagination better than mine, cleaner, everything. So I lean into that. I think that leads to a fundamental point of like, you need to have that understanding of Yahuwah. Like, have it be a fact in your life that Yahuwah is 100% pure. Just, that's it. Plain as day. Doesn't matter like what you think of his choices. His choice is the perfect choice. If that is like not so much a thing for you, Yahuwah willing, you get there, because that will aid your trust in him. And, you know, looking at the scriptures cover to cover, sorry, I have a speech impediment. It comes up sometimes, whatever. Failing flesh and all. But reading the scriptures cover to cover several times over, I find that, like, what is the message? What, all this history, what's the point? Why did Yahuwah allow us to have this word, these amount of scriptures? Sure, there's talk of like scriptures removed, scriptures burned, lost in our time. Yeah, I wonder about those, but you know what? Yahuwah has allowed us to have what we have now. And he's the creator of all things, and there's nothing that's outside of his control. You know, so for men and women that have chosen evil and trying to disrupt Yahuwah's plan, like, Yahuwah allows so much, and then he draws a line, and where he draws that line, no one can cross it, period. Shaitan, his messengers, no one, nothing. Yahuwah is the ultimate power, absolute, perfect in judgment, perfect in righteousness, period. That has to be a fact. And what's awesome is that when you know that, you can always rest in him. Now, when it comes to reading the scriptures, you know, we have to know, English speakers, really, whatever, I should say, people speaking these modern languages. And that's pretty much all of us, right? Like, I don't know how many people are watching this and you're like, you grew up speaking an ancient language and you are, you know, an ancient person. I mean, you know, if it's Yehuchanan that is still alive to this day, you know, taught one of Yahusha, and he never died and he's watching this, okay, maybe the exception. But I'm talking about like anyone else, you know, born in this, within these last 150 years, I'll just put it like that. How about that? Then we are a recent people in terms of like human history, and we are reading the scriptures through translation. We are not reading them in their, you know, pure, authentic, original languages. And even so, if we are, it's not like those were our first languages. Like, so understanding that, and then we're reading things like, just my point here, I'm being elaborate with it, but just like, we're reading the scriptures, we're ingesting the scriptures through translation, having been through many hands, some wicked, some clean. And you know what? All of us are imperfect anyway. So ultimately, going through hands that are imperfect, period. We have to understand that. So there has to be a little bit of wiggle room of like, you know what if my interpretation of the scriptures is not purely 100% the truth, you know? Our interpretation, really emphasizing that, because the scriptures, they say what they say, and then how we interpret them, how our individual brain works, the language that we're, you know, reading them through, our understanding of that language. I mean, I don't know how many of you, how did you do in English class? Did you always have an A+ all the time? And if you ever had a grade that was less than that, you know, hey, it shows that maybe at some point you didn't have full fluency. And even now, like, do you have full fluency? You know, are there English words that are spoken and you're like, what does that mean? If so, and then you're reading the scriptures, can we say that we're going to have perfect interpretation through this translation of scripture? And then do we even have perfect understanding of the language behind that? And then how about the language behind that? So that having to be a caveat, basically, Yahuwah willing, it gives you some humility that, you know what, like, I may not have all of the pieces perfectly in place, But there are major, huge pieces that should just be plain and evident throughout the scriptures, that Yahuwah is the maker. He is absolute in power, and he's perfect. And he wants our tube. He wants our goodness. He wants the best for us. And he's given us free will. He's given us free will from the beginning. So beautiful. I think it should give us some understanding as like the reason why he made us. And here's my interpretation. Really just kind of like rough, but my interpretation of the entirety of the scriptures, it's a message that we have a creator and he values us and he's made us to love him, but he's given us a free will. So here is this awesome, powerful maker who has made many wondrous things, and then he made this special thing that was made like him, in his likeness, in his image. And then he desires for that creation of its own will to love him back. And this starts way back from Adam and Chua. And we know of the tragic tale, a truthful tale, that a law given to them was transgressed, and it changed them, and it changed all of their seed as well, where we now have the knowledge of good and evil. And I think with that knowledge we have the inclination for good and evil, tub ura'ah. And so that needs to be acknowledged, that to this day we are wrestling with our own evil, and then also our own desire to do the righteous matters. And so what is it that we're needing to endure? We're needing to endure this state that we are in, the state of our flesh, and then the state of this world, molded by generations of generations after Adam and Chua. It is the same plight of our first father and mother, and that's what we're dealing with now. And it's a whole bunch of pain. A dear Ach of mine was sharing his grievances of pain. Pain not of the outsiders, those outside the covenant with Yahuwah, but those in covenant with Yahuwah. Allegedly, Yahuwah knows ultimately. And I think, for the most part, they are all in covenant with Yahuwah. I was also part of the accused. The accused? Yeah. And I had to give him the reminder of like, hey, what I'm hearing is that, you're pained by your brothers and sisters when they make mistakes. And I have to say, it doesn't matter where you go, if you're seeking other brothers and sisters, if you're going and you're seeking perfection in them, you're going to continue to be disappointed. Because while we are striving to be perfect, Yahuwah willing we are, or at least striving for excellence, guaranteed we are going to be imperfect. At some point, some moments, it's going to happen. And we need to go into our relationships with one another, engaging with one another in communication and talks, knowing that we're going to be imperfect, that we're going to make mistakes with one another. If you're going into different assemblies, if you're looking up to people and you are seeking perfection, just know you're not going to find it. Sorry to discourage you, not trying to, really just trying to give you a reality check. You're not going to find perfection in people here. You can find excellence, yes, not perfection. You can find perfection in Yahuwah and Yahusha, Mashiach. That, rest easy in. I posted something like this. I feel like it needs to be repeated. But so much, this is like the sentiment of my walk, is that I want to follow Yahusha. He did everything perfect and was obedient to Yahuwah. I want to be like him. He's my hero. He is my role model. He is Rabbi, my more, my mura, my teacher. I love Yahusha. I praise Yahuwah for Yahusha. Because he's perfect. Now, there are people that I've looked up to in this time, people, brothers and sisters, and some of them have been excellent. Not perfect though, not a single one. And their imperfections are discouraging and depressing. But with maturity in the walk, I see, oh, you know what? I should expect this. And not to be like, oh, you know, and I should hate them for it. You know, like, no, I should just acknowledge, hey, they are imperfect, but I should be able to see that they are trying. I see Yasharal as being, and I'm talking about genuine, sincere Yasharal. I'm not talking about Yasharal of the flesh, because there are many that are going to the lake of fire. And I'm not talking merely of, I'm just talking about real Yasharal, just period. That's it. Yasharal is Yasharal. It's a spiritual nation. It's not a fleshly nation. Point blank, period. That's it. So I'm talking about true Yasharal. From the beginning, it was a spiritual nation. Yahuwah was seeking after the circumcised hearts from the start. It was not something that was physical. And if you want to debate, sorry, go talk to yourself in the mirror, because it's the truth of the scriptures. That's it. You know, Yasharal from the jump was spiritually based. True Yasharal did not go to the lake of fire. True Yasharal was not rejected by Yahuwah, because there was bloodline Yasharal that was absolutely rejected from the start, in the middle, happened at the end too. So anyway, Yasharal, today's Yasharal, true Yasharal, is the same as times past. Like, we are a people seeking excellence, seeking to be perfect. But as soon as you sin once, like, you can't be perfect. Your story is going to be tainted, so you're not going to have a perfect story. But you can have an excellent story, as in the story of your life. So Yasharal in this time, true Yasharal is sincere. And I see it as we are like a Sinners Anonymous group, you know, like Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you don't, it's like, you know, support groups, people come together. They all have the same, whatever the support groups function, like whatever the addiction or whatever it's supposed to be attacking, you know, it's like these people coming together and they are recovering from this issue and relating to one another in their failures. And I feel like Yasharal is a Sinners Anonymous group. You know, it's like, yes, we acknowledge we're sinners, but we're not wanting to just settle and be like, yeah, it's cool, I'm a sinner, kick back, whatever. Like, no, we're like, man, I'm a sinner, I hate this. It ruins my life, it messes with my relationship with my maker. Like, I want to do better. Hey, what's your strategy? Let's relate in our stories. True Yasharal is like that. And we're imperfect. We need to acknowledge that. And I think those of us that are mature in the walk, we can see that and we're like, oh yes, yeah, we're sinners and we're trying to do better. And yes, I see your sin, and sometimes your sin, I see it affect that other person. And sometimes it affects me. Sometimes I see it affecting Yahuwah, and then I see, you know, the fallout of that. It's a bummer. Yahuwah willing, you're repentant. And also, Yahuwah willing, I'm repentant for where I mess up. There's just like, we're able to see and acknowledge, hey, yeah, we're an imperfect people. But we are seeking excellence. We're not just laying down and just like wallowing in our weakness and just wanting to stay there. No, we are wanting to be better. We have the drive to be better. That is mature Yasharal. And it's a bummer to see when we are weaker. I know in my own life, imperfect. I am not high in status before Yahuwah. You know, people might see and like whatever, that doesn't matter. It's what Yahuwah sees. And I know between Yahuwah and I do not have high status. However, I know that he values me. And he values me enough that I, for one, praise Yahuwah, I no longer am wrestling with the ideations of ending myself in such a fierce manner as in my youth. Because he's allowed me to see that, for one, I'm made in his likeness. That is massive. And like, okay, at the same time, it's common because all of us are. But do we all acknowledge that? That the maker of the heavens and the earth, he didn't make the elephants in his image, nor the giraffe. But humanity, yes, we are made in his likeness. This is huge. Just know you are bearing the face of Yahuwah. Yes, we come in different colors, types, variations, but there's some base features, even in this fleshly image, that are similar to Yahuwah. And those, exactly those details, okay, to be revealed to the elect, as it is stated in the scriptures. There are only some that will see Yahuwah. Yahuwah willing, we will be of this number. You and I watching this. I'm not watching this. I guess I am watching it. Whatever. Imperfect, see, yes. But, how wonderful is that? And then also, I love it. The affirmations in the word of how much Yahuwah loves us and how much he values us and wants us to choose righteousness. But there's so much in that he desires us to choose. Don't be lazy. We have actions to take. We can ask for help. Yahuwah desires us to ask him for help, but at the same time, he doesn't want to do the whole thing for us. You know what I mean? If you want to just an automaton, a robot doing, then he would just create that. But he has given us the power of choice. And let's say it's just an illusion of choice. It is such a thick illusion that in every moment, we are convinced that we are making these choices, And if we think that's not the case, then what about when we choose evil? Are you going to say, oh, no, well, Yahuwah made me do that? Let's be real. We have choices to make. We are to choose chi. We are to choose life. Why would Yahuwah say that if there was no choice to be had? Is he a liar? Is he the author of confusion? If you know, you know. So, all that said, Yahuwah is amazing. He loves us. He values us. We are precious in his sight. We need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge our creation, have responsibility for how he has made us. If you're like me, you have made many horrible choices in this life, and you have squandered many breaths toward futility and harm towards yourself, harm towards others, and grieving the heart of the Maker. However, if you are still breathing, you have a chance right now. Yahuwah is allowing you breath to make better choices. So make better choices. Make better choices, period. Do better than you did yesterday. Just keep doing better. And don't worry too much about far in the distance, because we have to remember Yahuwah's words. He gave it to us many different ways, and through Yahusha, today has enough evil of itself. Don't worry about tomorrow. So be focused, be here today. What can you do today? What can you do in the next moment, next 20 minutes, next hour to be better, to do better? When it comes to communication with one another, I see room for improvement of the body overall. If you pay attention to Yahusha's teachings, he teaches us confrontation. If you have an issue with someone, go to them one-on-one. If they sinned against you, they've offended you, go to them one-on-one. Some of us have this habit that is taught of in the world. Someone harms you, get revenge and put them on blast. I'm from LA, so by basically saying, like, oh, and you make a show of them. And I take note how Yahuwah allowed in his word so that we would all read it, how the husband of Marim, or Mary, mother of Yahusha, how it was allowed to be told in their story that when Joseph, Yahusaf, considered that she cheated on him because she was pregnant before they were wed, he was going to put her away secretly and not make a show of her. And the word in English is attached to that act is righteous. I think that's really powerful. I think that's really fascinating. And it was of, his life. His life is incorporated into the story of Yahusha Mashiach. Yahuwah didn't choose him willy-nilly, surely, Anyway, but just like, we need to get better at that, Yasharal, just overall. And also, conversely, if we know, someone has a beef with us, and we're just like, well, that's their problem. Like, no, what does Yahusha say? We know that a brother or sister has issue with us, let's put the gift down, try and make amends. Paraphrasing, but it's there in the word. Now, it's one thing if you try to, and the person just like blocks all roads of communication. Well, then don't harass them. Do your due diligence before Yahuwah. And, you've tried once, tried twice. I think twice is at least enough. Just once might be like, all right, maybe just try at least one more time. 3 times, okay, could be borderline harassment. Some people are extra sensitive. Even with the second time, they might say that, but, nearly anyone could be, with you in that, okay, well, you just tried a second time. That was it. Hey. There's many. Firstly, we're easy to offend. We're sensitive people. We're a frail creation, period. But then, I don't know if it's laziness or just more so just the ways of this world when dealing with things, where it's just very easy to like, oh, you called me that? How dare you? You're gone forever, out of my life. How dare you? You're wicked. You're of Shaitan. And it's like the hypocrisy too is like, man, when we get like that and we're just like unreasonable, letting misunderstandings be, not putting in the work for understanding, not putting in the work toward like seeing one another eye to eye. It's pathetic. But then more importantly, we're not in line with how Yahuwah has asked us to deal with one another, especially brothers and sisters. So for the sincere, please pay attention to how Yahusha has taught us to deal with one another, because if we're ignoring that, then we're being disobedient. If we love Yahusha, we're guarding his commands. We are of his taught ones if we have love for one another, if we are valuing him, valuing his word, because his word is not his own, it's coming from Yahuwah. So if we're not listening to Yahusha, we're not listening to Yahuwah. And if we're claiming to be Yahuwah's and we're not listening to Yahusha's words, we're not doing it like, yeah, we're running the mouth, but we're not true. Just period. And, you can say all you want of yourself, but Yahuwah is going to be the one to determine if you're true or not. And conversely, we also don't need to be so concerned of like, oh, is that brother or sister? Is that brother or sister? Is that the brother or sister sincere or not? Are they really Yasharal? I find that like I don't need to really have that answer so much. Yes, by their fruits you shall know them. But even then, someone's moments of weakness that may not color their whole life, And maybe it's like, okay, I've been around this sibling for a year, and you know what? The fruit is whack. It could be like, hey, in 5 years, maybe the fruit is going to be good. Maybe there's going to be some repentance, some more refining, some pruning. I try to have that kind of optimistic view of my siblings, because I don't know what things are going to be like in their last 10 days of life. And, Yahuwah is very kind and loving. And if someone were wicked most of their life, and then the last 10 days, they turn things around because they got pricked in the heart finally, I'm pretty sure he's going to accept them, just seeing what he says in the word. I'm not just freely guessing. It's just seeing his nature in the word. With that said, we need to have his vision. And also we need to acknowledge where we don't have his vision. We won't know these things. We're going to see his classification, where he puts people at the end. Like, so we kind of just need to rest in that ignorance of like, you know what? I don't know how Yahuwah is going to classify this person at the end of the day. Let me be kind to them anyway. You know what? And you know what? Because we be obedient doing that anyway. Like, we're to love our neighbor, whether they're an enemy or a brother or sister. So when we're dealing with anyone, there has to be love. And, but at the same time, there's love, but then are we giving our ear for counsel to just anyone? No, not necessarily. There's a sermon in all this, of course, but anyway, this is just how I'm viewing the world and life and people in my time right now. Frustrating to see the weakness in Yasharal, but at the same time, it's like, bruh, I'm weak. So it's frustrating to see myself in the mirror. I see Yasharal out there. I need to make sure that I'm like seeing it like, you know what? This is what I'm seeing in Yasharal is me. Maybe me in different times of my life, maybe in the future in certain moments. But Yahuwah willing, overall, sincere Yasharal that's going to be accepted, that will be called Yasharal at the end of the day. I'm not talking about Yasharal that calls himself Yasharal and they're going to be in the lake of fire at the end of the day. No. I'm talking about Yasharal that Yahuwah will define as Yasharal at the end. I want to be of that Yasharal. And two, I already know that Yasharal is going to be a people that are imperfect. Because he says it. He says he is redeeming a people who have sin. They have transgression. Just period. Yahusha is given to us for the forgiveness of sin. So that implies that we will have sinned. We will have transgressed the command of Yahuwah, the command of Yahusha. So may we be better. May we be more sincere. May we be more set apart. May we be more righteous, more patient, more long-suffering with one another. Have better discernment, you know, and yeah. But anyway, I feel like this is just, you know, as usual, the pressing on my heart just gets to a certain point and is like, all right, it just comes out. Most of the time I'm just like holding it back and I'm like, tired of seeing my face. I don't want to be out there. I just keep to myself. But then I feel like it was just like, look, but no, I want you to say some of these things. And for whatever reason, I'm just like, but you know, I don't know. I have to go with it to a degree. Trying to be humble, but at the same time, it's like, I know my face is out there. I'm like, but she's like, I see my face, but it's like, I want to be humble. But you know, pride doesn't even see my face. People are going to see it and people might like it or might say a kind word. I'm like, I don't want that because I don't want to be prideful. I don't know. It's something but just you have to deal with, you know, and sometimes it's just like, whether you want to or not, you know, Yahuwah is sometimes going to just put you out there and you're going to be seen. And some people might give you a kind word and, you know, there's temptation to be like, oh yeah, that feels good. Like, no, you know, and, you know, I see just the barakah for the meek and the humble, and Shabbat study this past Shabbat, you know, reading over how Masha in the Torah, you know, like, the most humble man, you know, of the earth, paraphrasing, but it's something to that effect. I'll likely post in here, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. Obviously, Yahuwah valued this trait, and we see in the Torah that this is a trait that is talked about, you know, and it's like, man, okay, you know, I see that this is something that Yahuwah likes. I want to be what Yahuwah likes. I want to please him, you know, and he's whose heart I'm after, you know. I used to be after the hearts of men and women, you know, wanting to please them. You know, there were teachers in the past where I was like, man, I look up to him. Wow, he's excellent. Hey, wow, I want to be a right-hand man. You know, you're smart. I want to be under you. I want to be learning on you. And then finding their imperfection and like some of his imperfections or her imperfections, I grabbed onto because I was trying to be everything like them. And then I learned, you know what? No, I had it wrong. Yahuwah had to correct me. But I had to be like that toward Yahusha and Yahusha only. And Yahusha only. And Yahusha only. Wanting to be like Yahusha, because walking in a fleshly state, he was showing us Yahuwah, and ultimately want to be like Yahuwah. At the same time, I don't want to be like Yahuwah. I don't want to be sitting in his throne. You know what I mean? If you know, sincere ones, you know what I'm saying. The twisted one, you guys are gonna be like, oh, look at him. He wants to be like, you know. But I'm not talking to you. So anyway, shalom, love you. Machahaba. I know some of you might hear me saying some of these words and like, oh, this is derived from a pagan word. He's a false person. I'm not really worried about that, y'all. I'm not worried about your guys' judgment over me because I know Yahuwah. Yahuwah knows me, and the mature of the word, the mature in him will understand. You know, even those people that get like that, they are not living their life without transgressing that same command of men. So thus, there's hypocrisy there. Just point blank, that's all it is. You know, I respect those that are like, they just want to speak more Hebrew, you know, and they're not condemning other people, like trying to, you know, have there be this command that is not truly a command of Yahuwah. It's just more our interpretation in this time and this perception of righteousness that just really isn't there. The weightier matters, people. Likely maybe some of those last words offended some, but, you know, may Yahuwah just convict and you know, steer you. Ultimately, I'm just a man anyway. Follow what Yahuwah says. Anyhow, shalom to you all. Here we are in this crazy time. If you're in America, we're in this crazy administration. And it's super goading us to try and like provoke hate, provoke feelings of animosity towards especially a single person. Or even a group of people. Like I used to be super like anti-elite, hate the elite, hate the Illuminati, hate your secret societies. You know, Team Shaitan. I mean, I still am truly disgusted with Team Shaitan. But for the people, my frame of thinking now this is kind of the theme of this video, where I'm at these days in my mind with the different things, and I'm just going wherever. So whatever, I'm just letting this be a free one. And really just being like, you know what? Yahuwah willing, before your death, you repent. Because I know a super crazy, insane, horrible punishment is coming. And I don't want that even for my enemies. But I know that Yahuwah, it's written in the scripture that there are going to be those going into lake of fire and having to suffer that punishment. And that's a horrible thing. So I'm just trying to be like, I want to have the heart where I'm not like rejoicing, like, look at my enemies, you know, because I think it's a proverb where, you know, Yahuwah's essentially like, hey, don't be acting like that when your enemies get it, lest I turn around and I refrain. And I'm like, all right, I see you, Yahuwah. And I just see, you know, he punishes me. He punishes the righteous. He punishes the wicked. He punishes the wicked when they're righteous. No, he punishes, I'm foolish sometimes. But basically what I'm trying to say, Yahuwah is fair. Those outside of covenant with him, those in covenant with him, I see him punish everybody. And I see him send barakah to everybody. Temporal, you know, sometimes, as is a sentiment of like the rain falling on the wicked and the right. You know, I see that. There we go. Better words. Yeah. You know, I'm not always so eloquent, you know, but I might try to be excellent, but I'm not perfect. Anyway, so just sharing some of my heart at this time, take it or leave it. And, you know, maybe encouraged to embrace your imperfection. Just know that you don't need to settle there. Don't settle there. Don't settle for being whack, being, you know, transgressing. Don't settle. I'm not trying to settle, you know, and let us, you know, Yahusha doesn't want us to. He wants us to be perfect. And when we strive for perfection, we at least can reach excellence. So let's do our best, you know, to be excellent. Be encouraged, fam. Let's be better. As it's stated in Revelation, you know, why would it say, you know, for those who will be more, those who are set apart, be more set apart. Those who are righteous, be more righteous. Like, and there's, you know, the parts for the wicked, but I'm not trying to go there. I'm trying to be in the set apart and righteous bracket. So that's my focus. That's what I'm like, just like, all right, you know, that's the goal. I need it simple. You know, I'm not the smartest crayon in the box. So just you know, okay, be more set apart, be more righteous. All right, go. Let me just try and do that. Anyway, be encouraged, fam. Let's keep on going. Don't give up. Because you give up, then that's the end of the story. Like, you know, don't give up. Keep on going. Yahuwah wants us to live life. So live it. And give it to him. You know. I wanted to wrap this up, but there's this other point coming to mind in terms of keeping on going. And that for those, if you are wrestling with the ideations of ending yourself, just recognize the purpose of the Torah. So much of it, like, and it'll plainly ran out of power there, not power, memory space on the phone, but just I see in the Torah that everything is for your betterment and for extending your life. You know, Yahuwah is basically not wanting us to do things that are going to, you know, cut our life short. You know, he wants us in a healthy lifestyle. I see that practicality aspect of the Torah. And for example, you know, honor your father and mother so that your days on the earth are prolonged. So when you think about that, it's like, okay, so that you are living a longer life. So wouldn't we be going against the intent of the Torah if we are, you know, ending our life before he desires it? And that's where I believe, you know, it's like we did not fully live out our life. We didn't fully live out all those opportunities, all those ways that Yahuwah would work through us in our lives and then affect, you know, people around us. Because we're the righteous, we are the light of the world, salt of the earth. And so we have this purpose to aid the betterment of the entire planet, you know, and we do this as a team that's spread out, and Yahuwah is using us. But if we're like, nope, I'm out of here, sorry, I'm unenlisting from your army, Yahuwah, you know, then don't don't expect a good fate when you meet him. And, you know, the sincere of Yahuwah, you want to please him, right? So, you know, as difficult as this life can get, let's persevere. Because if you notice, all of the other righteous in the scriptures, like, they all went through their stuff. All of them. They all had stressful things come up in their lives. Not everyone had a perfect, nice, hunky-dory story where there was nothing, there was no trial, no challenge. Like, no. We all had our challenges, all had our trials, all have. So let's power through. Let's be those righteous who get into stressful situations, are challenged, and get through it. Yes, there were some who were like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Yahuwah, end my life. Okay, yeah, we can relate, but let us power through and persevere. That much I just want to say. I encourage you to keep on going. Yahuwah will be with you all, and maybe make it, you know, maybe be restored into favor before Yahuwah, whether we are alive at Yahusha's return or we're resurrected. Woo, that was a big guy. Resurrected unto favor, you know. Anyway, shalom, y'all. Yahuwah go before you, Basham Yahusha. And for you real ones out there, boop. I commend you, and I'm just glad you're out there, you know. You enrich my life, especially for those of you, you know, I interact with, and, you know, your light is shining into my life and affecting me and my household. I praise Yahuwah for you, you know, and if I can reciprocate any of that, you know, then hallelujah. You know, it's a gift from Yahuwah, ultimately, that he could make some use of us as imperfect creations that we are, you know. I think he made us perfect initially, and then we made some choices that, you know, tinted us a bit, but he has a plan where we're going to be perfected again, you know. And even in its imperfection, Yahuwah is awesome. He's like, look, I can still make things happen where everything's going to work out perfectly because, you know, I'm Yahuwah and I'm awesome. You know, like, that's how Yahuwah is. To that Yahuwah. Anyway, shalom.